Welcome to Supertalk, the podcast that scratches your superhero itch. Just two suburban dads nerding out over superhero stuff on the small screen and the big. Buckle up, people. Enjoy the ride.
Welcome to Supertalk, the weekly podcast dedicated to news and reviews of comic book media on the big and small screen. This is episode 137. I'm your host, Brian Professor Pedersen. With me, as always, my illustrious co-host, Titanium Tony Estrella.
Professor, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well.
Yeah.
Are you okay?
I've recovered.
I know you had a bit of a difficult time at the theaters this weekend.
Actually had a lot of fun. It was I laughed a lot, not for
the right reasons though.
No. Not with the movie, but at some of the cringiest dialogue ever to be uttered in a comic book movie. But we have a lot to go over, so welcome to episode 137, everybody. And we'll do a little Madam review, and we'll talk about the new casting and some upcoming news and our thoughts on it. And I love the comic that you're displaying for our YouTube customers. Awesome.
Yeah.
Spider-Woman.
Spider-Woman #1. And we'll get into it in the topic of the week this week about what could have been or what should have been, frankly.
What should have been. That's a better statement.
Look, there's just too much to talk about there. Well, let's first thank the listeners that bring us the show, and that's our patrons. Patreon.com/Supertalk is how you become a member of the patronship. Support the show directly. If you like listening to the show, donate $1 every time we come out with one of these silly episodes, and it really helps us out. So patreon.com/Supertalk is how you become a member. We will save our review of Madam Web for our topic of the week. So let's jump into some news from the past several days. On Valentine's Day, and as we predicted, I think our last episode was right after the Super Bowl. And I think we said when we reviewed the Deadpool trailer, we're like, now that the Super Bowl's over, this is a really good time for Marvel to finally make some announcements. And it was somewhat subtle. And as we predicted, the worst kept secret in Hollywood. I mean, there have been Fantastic Four casting rumors for months. Finally, it seemed like they were all kind of centering on the same cast of individuals. And on Valentine's Day, they released a photo, a drawing of the new cast, announcing the new cast of the Fantastic Four. And to nobody's surprise, it was the people that had been most recently rumored to be in the cast. And again, Pedro Pascal as Mr. Fantastic. We have Vanessa Kirby as Sue Storm. We have Ebon Moss-Bachrach as the Thing, Ben Grimm, and then Johnny Quinn as Johnny Storm. Again, these were the most recent names attached to these roles, and we finally got an official announcement from Marvel with I think, pointed. I think there's some reasoning behind the way that they announced this and the way they released it. It looks like to us that this drawing depicts the cast of the Fantastic Four in a time period long gone by, back maybe in the 50s or 60s.
Yeah, I mean the Thing in that it's a Valentine's Day card from the first family of comics, and the Thing is reading a Life magazine, and the front cover of that Life magazine is President Johnson, and I think it was 63.
LBJ, who had just taken over as president,
in the Oval Office,
when RFK was killed. So,
and I think it's been pretty widely rumored that this takes place, or at least starts off, in the 60s. Another surprise to the poster that we got was a little robot that's pretty famous in the comics as Reed Richards' sidekick, Herbie, and I think they're going to utilize that robot in the film as well.
A little less in the comics, very much so for the Fantastic Four animated. It was created for the Fantastic Four animated series that was out in the 70s. Herbie was created for that. Later made its way. Herbie did make its way into the comics after the fact, but that's why it was created.
Yeah,
but
people very popular with a lot of people that are
Yeah.
really losing their minds over
And
it.
there's all kinds of like places they can go with Herbie. Like it's like an intelligent, it's got an AI system, and there's thoughts of like the AI actually being alien based, and there's all kinds of places they could go with Herbie. So we'll kind of see what they do with the movie. But yeah, being a movie that's in the 60s, and I think we've all kind of wondered how would they introduce the Fantastic Four to the MCU. This makes a lot of sense. Maybe and part of the plot of the movie could be they have some kind of event, and we believe highly rumored that Galactus is going to be part of this movie. Highly rumored that a Herald of Galactus is going to be part of this movie. Now, somewhat rumored that the Silver Surfer will be debuting in this movie, whether it is Galactus's Herald or as a post-credit scene or something. Why there's so many rumors about the plot of this movie now, but it seems like it could very well be one of two things. This is an alternate universe or alternate dimension, and they will be brought into the main MCU through the Secret Wars construct or merging of the universes.
Well, now that the multiverse is cracked wide open, it could be another universe.
Could be another universe. The other popular theory is that an event occurs in the time period in which they lived. That event created them being lost in time somewhere or somehow, and then ultimately they make their way back to the current time period through some mechanism. So, look, we can't wait to find out what happens.
Yeah, will Deadpool 3 play a part in what happens in Fantastic Four? We don't know. But yeah, it's been widely rumored that it takes place in the 60s and this and that, and I'm looking forward to it. I mean, it was, like you said, the worst kept secret in Hollywood, but and still
any official announcement from Marvel is a good announcement.
No question.
But they have been so reluctant to say anything to us recently.
Pedro Pascal is Mr. Fantastic. I'm iffy on that still. I'm hoping his performance.
One of the hottest actors in Hollywood, without question.
There's no question about that. He's very hot and he's very sought after.
Already under contract with Disney for multiple things. Already under contract with Disney for The Mandalorian, right?
Yeah.
So
The Last of Us.
Well, that's not Disney, but
he's a part of The Last of Us. He's part of The Mandalorian.
But it was an actor they were familiar with.
Absolutely.
Contractually, at least, so it was convenient.
I'm still on the fence, to be honest with you, but I think it's great. I thought they would go much younger with the cast.
As we all did.
But again, some of the other rumors from other people like Adam Driver and all these other people that were out there, Mila Kunis as the Thing or whatever else they was floating out there, crazy rumors. I'm glad they settled into something more comic book accurate, per se. So I think it's great. I guess this Joe Quinn is from Stranger Things and just shot to stardom from that. His portrayal of Hellfire, the leader of the Hellfire. Yeah, I think that's a great casting. Vanessa Kirby, Smoke Show. I mean, that's a home run. I think that's a great casting.
Yeah, no, she, obviously she most famous for her portrayal of Queen Margaret on The Crown, but she's been in the last couple of Mission Impossible movies and done very well there. So yeah, I mean, I think it was a good casting there.
Yeah, she's gorgeous and great actress. I think she'll do that role extremely.
And Evan Moss Baccarat has a history.
I've never seen The Bear. He's from The Bear. That
well,
show, right?
where most comic book fans might remember him from. He played Micro in the Punisher series on Netflix. So if you watch Punisher season 1, I believe it was, he played the Micro character who's kind of Punisher's man in the chair. And he was in the Punisher on Netflix. So funny that he's playing multiple roles in the MCU. Well, I guess now that the Punisher is canon to the MCU, he has played multiple roles. But yeah, so that's where people may have recognized him from. But yeah, if you've ever seen the Bear TV series on Hulu, he plays the cousin to the main chef who's the star of the show. And I think just personality wise, he's like a dead ringer for the things. So
well, I think it's a great call. I think he was on Jimmy Kimmel or something, one of these late night talk shows, and he asked him, he said, "Are you ready for your rock suit?" And he said, I don't think it's going to be like a cosplay thing. I don't think it's going to be like Michael Childress. Is that his name? The guy,
Chickless.
Michael Chiklis, who played the Thing in the other one. I don't think it's going to be a suit like that. I think it's going to be action capture or
Motion capture.
Yeah, that
very
motion
much what they
capture
do with the Hulk, right?
and Avatar, and also Thanos, what they did with Josh Brolin. So you get his characters features,
facial
like
recognition. Yeah. You get the facial
thing.
expressions and everything else, but it'll all be motion capture. So
you know the budget and the cost of that just went through the roof,
right?
He's a huge part of that. So
yeah, as a matter of fact, Mark Ruffalo came out recently, and they were, as he always gets asked in any interview, it's like, when are we going to get a solo Hulk movie? And he's like, it ain't happening, guys. He says just the budget that's necessary to make that much, since everything that I do as the Hulk is it's motion capture.
Yeah.
He said the budget is just, if you're going to do a Hulk movie, a solo movie, you're going to have the Hulk motion capture so much. He said we just don't have the budget for that. It's crazy.
Yeah, it would be nuts. At least with their current special effects studios, the VSX studios that they're working with, it would just cost them an arm and a leg. So I don't think that's worth it. But
it's a virtual arm and a leg, so it's not as expensive.
Do you think this is going to be an origin story?
No, I think what I appreciate about what Kevin Feige's done and what Marvel have done recently is they've moved away from the origin story very much. I mean, we had several of them.
So they're going to be the Fantastic Four in this movie already.
Yeah, we had several origin stories early on in the MCU with Iron Man and Captain America, First Avenger, and the first Thor movie. But they've kind of moved away from those. And I think they're not necessary anymore because we've seen most of these characters. I mean, this will be the third iteration of the Fantastic Four. Do we really need to do an origin story where they go off to space and get hit with cosmic radiation and get their powers? I mean, we've seen that twice already.
I mean, it worked for Spider-Man.
It didn't with Tom Holland Spider-Man.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, they didn't need it.
They didn't need it.
They didn't need it.
So
we already knew who Spider-Man was.
Right. Why not go with that blueprint? Right. Makes sense.
Yeah. So, I mean, they didn't need to go through that with the Tom Holland version of Spider-Man. Why not just move forward? We know who the Fantastic Four. We've seen the origin story twice already. And the second one was horrible. The first one was kind of comic book accurate.
The second one, Fantastic Four 2015. We'll talk about that in my review.
Okay. But I think they will already have been the Fantastic Four, which I think is great. We already know the characters. We already know what their powers are. We don't need to see them go off into space in a space shuttle or whatever and get hit with cosmic radiation.
Rumor is that they might bring in Dr. Doom for this.
Yeah, there's a lot of talk now
Speculation.
that Dr. Doom, whether he's in the movie or post-credit scene or makes a cameo or something. Obviously, his origin is tied, and I think that that's one of the benefits of not doing an origin story, is that the origin of Dr. Doom. So he and Reed Richards were college roommates, and the reason why he has the same, has powers is very similar to why the Fantastic Four had powers, and you kind of have to tie those origins together. And not doing an origin story doesn't tie you to when we see him and why we see him.
Right.
There is a history there. They know each other. They're familiar with each other. Victor Von Doom and Reed Richards have known each other for years. So when you choose to introduce Victor Von Doom, I don't think matters anymore. You don't have to make it part of it like they did in the original Fox Fantastic Four movie. They had to kind of like integrate him into that. And the same thing with 2015. They did the same thing. But I think whether you include him in the movie or do a cameo or a post-credit scene makes a lot of sense. And there are some other rumors about who could be playing Dr. Doom now, which we'll talk about here in a minute. But yeah, I mean, you have to introduce this character into the MCU at some point in time. I do think that character will play an enormous role in Secret Wars, and should be a massive character in the MCU for years, for 10 years. Like, you don't have to have a Thanos level event to make Dr. Doom relevant. You can just have Dr. Doom always relevant. And he might show up in a movie, he might not, but the fact that he's out there is a thing, right? I think that's what they need. They need to have a villain that can always show up or be behind something eventually. Like, there's a movie, I'm not saying this would happen, but let's say there's a movie, The Thunderbolts or whatever, and there's all this stuff happening, and at the end of the movie, you find out that Dr. Doom was behind all the bad stuff. That's exactly how you use him.
Right.
Right. Hey, guess who was pulling the strings all the time? Right? It was Dr. Doom.
Yeah, so the big bad Galactus and his herald or whoever his herald may be, it was rumored that it was going to be a female Silver Surfer. Now,
And there's
he
still rumors out there. I mean, we heard that Anya Taylor-Joy has been cast in a role in the movie, and she could be playing the female Herald Nova in the movie. So we don't know that yet.
Nova, Juno, I think there were a few, right?
Yeah.
So very similar. But again, like I've stated several times, like we've talked about, why would you keep on the bench one of the most popular heralds of him and the Silver Surfer? I mean,
Well, he wasn't his original Herald. He was eventually a Herald, and who knows?
but arguably the most popular one.
Well, one of the most popular characters in Marvel's history, for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah. And if you want the Silver Surfer to be part of Secret Wars, you kind of got to introduce him at some point in time, right? So, look, I'm sure we're going to learn a lot more about the plot of this movie. I'm sure we're going to learn a lot more about the story behind this movie. I'm hopeful we're going to get a little bit of that at Comic-Con in July, hopefully. At least some indications of where they're going with the story. Maybe even a teaser or some clips or who knows, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
I mean, it might be too early at that point in time. They'll only have been filming for a couple of months at that point in time. But, even if the actors and the director get up there and kind of talk about what their vision is for the movie, that's look, details will be coming out. This movie is now. Oh, and the other thing that came out with the announcement was the date has been moved. It's now July of 2025. Was originally scheduled to be released in May of 2025, is now moved to July of 2025. It swaps places with Thunderbolts. So now Thunderbolts is going to be in the May slot and Fantastic Four will be in the July slot. And interestingly enough, there are now like 3 huge movies coming out in June, right? We've got 2 weeks prior is Superman Legacy, the new movie from James Gunn. James Gunn's first DCU movie, Superman Legacy, comes out 2 weeks before Fantastic Four
in July. 2025.
Yeah, so huge. And I just think it's interesting that the time they chose there. But look, this movie's going to be big. I mean, and we know this. I'm confident Kevin Feige and Marvel know how important it is for them to get Fantastic Four right.
Oh yeah.
Like I think they trusted
Ryan Reynolds
and Hugh Jackman to take care of Deadpool, knowing that they'll get it right. I think they trusted them to do that. Fantastic Four is one of those movies where like, look, we can release a stinker with, Thunderbolts. If it's not as widely as accepted or whatever, it's fine. But if Fantastic Four is wrong, we're in trouble.
Yeah.
That's the first one, I think, where they're going to be like, we'll have as many reshoots and rewrites and whatever we need to get this right. We'll do it. Now, I do have some confidence and faith in Matt Shakman. I do. And the fact that he did WandaVision, which was a period piece and went through multiple decades and he's got history with that in his career, having been on what was the TV show that Matt Shakman was on? He was on a sitcom. I can't remember it now. Growing Pains. He grew up on Growing Pains, so like he's got familiarity with all these things, and I think he did a fantastic job with WandaVision. I think being a period piece and him being in charge of this, I'm really confident that he's going to do a good job with it. So.
Yeah, I just hope they don't stay in the 60s. I hope the rumors are true and they bounce into modern day, but we'll see. It's going to be interesting. Once again, all of this is moot.
Yeah.
If the story isn't compelling.
Yep.
If they don't have a good screenplay and writers in the box, all of this, you can get the greatest actors in the world.
To do an origin story, like getting rid of that need makes them just say, focus on the characters and the story and the villain and make it compelling. You don't have to do an origin story. Just take that away from the need for that away from you, which is great.
Do you think there's more pressure on the Fantastic Four or Deadpool?
Oh, Deadpool for sure. Because it's the only movie this year.
Yeah.
It's the only movie in 2024 from Marvel. They've had a run of just lackluster releases, and it's the one movie that I think if they get it wrong and the next movie we have is in February,
they've lost a huge chunk of not just fans but consumers.
So Deadpool is probably the most, we've talked about this, the most important movie that's come out from Marvel since Endgame. I mean,
agree
easily. And another rumor, most recently, I mean, even within the last 48 hours, the latest actor to be linked to the Doctor Doom role is none other than Daniel Craig.
I saw that.
Double O
Yeah.
Seven himself. If that's the get that Marvel has for this version of Doctor Doom, number one, popular, successful, well-known actor, obviously. And for him to kind of transition from being the ultimate good guy in James Bond to the ultimate bad guy in Doctor Doom, I would love to see that.
Yeah.
I would love to see it.
Yeah. More so than the other rumor that's out there.
I don't think that that's true, but
I'm just saying,
Yeah.
we're addressing some rumors here.
well, I mean, you're talking,
He was offered an MCU.
but there's okay. So
Why
what
do you not give him?
Titanium is referring to is there was a story that came out last week that Henry Cavill had interviewed,
AKA Superman.
yeah, DCEU Superman. Henry Cavill had interviewed with Kevin Feige, had been offered a role in the Marvel Comics universe and had accepted. So now he is going to be playing a character in the MCU. From my personal opinion, at least, I just think that the last character I would attach him to would be Doctor Doom.
Agree. 100%.
Like,
who would you attach him to?
I think there's several. I mean, there's several different characters that I could attach him to. Could he play one of the X-Men in the new X-Men movies that they're coming out with? Absolutely. Without a doubt, 100%. Could he play Colossus? Could he play Cyclops? Could he play? Yes, absolutely. Could be a massive leading role in any of the X-Men roles that they have available that they're casting for now. That would be a home run across the board, many different areas. You and I have talked about this before. There's widespread rumors that Marvel is thinking about doing a Excalibur series, which was a comic book comic book that Marvel came out with that was a British-based superhero team made up of some of the X-Men, Kitty Pryde, Nightcrawler specifically, a Rachel Summers version of Phoenix. I don't want to get into Rachel Summers. Her backstory is way too confusing. We'll put everybody to sleep. But the main protagonist of the team of Excalibur was Captain Britain. And he would play a great Captain Britain. And he's mentioned before that he would love to play that character and do kind of some kind of, new modern twist on the character. So that would make a lot of sense in a lot of ways. But
I mean, bring him in sideways in the Thunderbolts.
Yeah, potentially.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who knows who he's playing? I love Henry Cavill. Like
Yeah,
what
me
he
too.
did with Superman.
Brilliant.
It was so good. Man
Yeah.
of Steel, still one of my favorite movies
Yep.
that DC's ever come out with. I thought he did a great job in DC in Batman vs Superman and in the Justice League movie. Despite all the problems that both of those movies had, he did very well. I thought he played Superman awesome.
Yeah.
So bringing him in the MCU, like, give it to me. I don't, and look, we love The Witcher. Like, I mean, he's just been, one of our favorite actors to watch on some of these shows here recently.
I don't see Doctor Doom whatsoever. I just do not see that. But Captain Britain for sure. Like, I can get behind.
That's the most natural fit.
Yeah.
But I mean, you could, like I said, there's a lot of different roles I could see him in, but I'm excited to find out what it is. And hopefully we find out in July. That would be fun.
Yeah.
Lots of rumor. I mean, I swear to God, it's like every other day there's a new story about Avengers 5. So as we've talked about several times on this program, the plot of this movie and the title of this movie is ever changing. Was originally supposed to be Avengers Kang Dynasty. Then they had Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania bombed in the box office. The Kang character really didn't resonate with the audience. And then you had all the Jonathan Majors legal troubles. And so now there were
legal
rumors.
troubles. I haven't heard anything.
Yeah. Now there's rumors they're moving away from the Kang character and not making Avengers 5 and then ultimately Secret Wars based on their battle against Kang, saying we need to move away from this. And they were talking about bringing Dr. Doom in. We have no idea. So there's theories that Kang is still part of Avengers 5, but maybe not as much, and that, ultimately they'll overcome that and there will be a new villain that surfaces. There's rumors that Kang is not going to be part of it at all. They're absolutely, it seems like, changing the name of the movie from Kang Dynasty to something else.
Something else, yeah.
very big rumors out there that they may just say that this is kind of Secret Wars Part 1, and then Part 2 will come out, a couple of years later. Look, we don't know. One of the biggest theories, or I'll say rumors, because they come from all these different places. Storyline was that they were focusing the next Avengers movie and the next Avengers team on 3 core characters. The new Captain America, right? The new Captain America,
Sam Wilson
version of Captain America, right? Shuri's Black Panther and Captain Marvel were going to be the 3 main leaders of the new Avengers team. And I think Marvel's decided they want to pivot away from that for lots of different reasons. And there were stories that they had now talked to Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman about potentially being a bigger part of Avengers 5, where in previously they weren't going to be a part of it at all. And based on the fact that that Deadpool trailer was the most watched trailer ever, tells everybody how important these characters could be to Marvel. Whether they do it or not, whether it makes sense or not, I don't know. But look, they got to get Avengers 5 right. I mean, they have to figure it out.
Investors Call, Bob Iger said that they're going to focus more on their core characters instead of the direction that they have been heading in, which is good. So we'll see.
Hope so.
Yeah, if they got to recast, whatever. But it is what it is. I mean, we've talked about it 100 times. The multiverse saga, period, with Kang, period, lost a lot of people. A lot of fans and a lot of that novice fan base left. It's very complicated. I mean, obviously, we can follow along loosely and pretty much know what's going on because of the history that we have with comic books. But everybody else was like, huh? What? He's the same person? It's very complicated. Pivot away from it.
It's, you know what, though? The multiverse saga in some ways is complicated and hasn't resonated with fans and been very difficult to follow and all these other things. In some ways, it's somewhat convenient for them. Very similar to what you and I talked about with DC when they were like, say, hey, maybe Flashpoint, the way that they can reset.
Yep.
Look, the multiverse saga and ultimately Secret Wars is a way for the MCU to kind of hit the reset button. They can just say, we're going to merge all these different universes with all these different characters together into one universe now going forward. And we'll use that as an opportunity to clean house.
Yeah.
Let's get rid of the characters that people don't like, get rid of the actors and actresses that are not really resonating with fans, recast the characters that are popular enough that they deserve to be recast, or bring new characters in that we feel people that like the X-Men, for example, that people really want. And we'll now have we have a reason to explain how they're now all of a sudden around where they weren't before.
Yeah, I agree.
And whether that was the grand plan or not, who knows? But that's, I think, a convenient thing that's happening, right?
Bottom line is, please pivot.
Yeah.
Please do something. You can still linger in the multiverse and still continue with that storyline, but Kang and all the complexities of his different variants and all that,
I just think it just won't work.
No, it's not going to work now.
Yeah. And there was a big, if anybody hadn't read this, there's a big article that came out in the Hollywood Reporter this past week around Marvel Studios' big, massive pivot that the company's been undergoing recently since Bob Iger came back in and Kevin Feige's realized he needs to be more involved in the day-to-day of what's going on with the studio. A really good article if you haven't read it, but I think, they basically said that we will start seeing the results of these changes soon. And I think Deadpool 3 is the first movie that is now under this new leadership and this new direction that the company has. Good news about Agatha, which is, we don't know what the title is. It's changed 12 times, so I'm not even going to try to tell you what it is right now. I guess the latest rumors are it's just going to be called Agatha, but that is coming out later this year. Good news about that. They went back to do reshoots, and they only did reshoots for one day.
Yeah.
Whereas typically a lot of these series and movies have done reshoots for weeks. They had one day of reshoots, which tells me that things are going well there. And whether or not that series will be successful remains to be seen, but that's good news. And again, I think the first Disney Plus series that'll be the first series that's under this new leadership, under this new direction entirely, will be Daredevil Born Again. And we've seen everything that's happened there of them kind of completely hitting the reset button and starting over. So, and that'll come out next year. So we'll see.
Yeah. Agree. What else we got?
So Blade, I know one of the things that was not announced in the latest Disney investor call was anything about Blade. Really good news here is that the writer of the Logan movie is now finalizing the script for Blade,
Yeah.
which, look, you and I will agree on this. Logan, one of our favorite comic book movies ever. I
Ever.
mean, just such a great movie.
Yep.
So the writer of Logan was brought in to rewrite the Blade script and put the final touches on it. From what we understand, Mahershala Ali is incredibly excited about these changes, incredibly excited about the direction of the movie. That's going really well. So I think that project is back on track. Good to hear. And hopefully we're still on track for like a late 2025 release for that movie. Other good news is Mahershala Ali will be voicing the Blade character in the Marvel Zombies Disney Plus animated show. Again, this was a animated series that Marvel had teased back in 2019, and we haven't heard or seen anything about this. It is still happening. They are still doing it. And from what we understand, Mahershala Ali will be making an appearance in that as Blade and voicing that character. So that's really good for him.
Encouraging
Yeah.
because, there's so many hearsay and this and that. I mean, he's left the project. He's upset with the script still, and it doesn't work. And yeah, the guy from Logan is going to be huge. I think that will be moving forward. And there's rumors that might start filming very, very soon.
Yeah.
I think next year we're going to get Thunderbolts. We're going to get
Captain America 4 early,
and Captain America 4.
Thunderbolts, Fantastic Four, and then hopefully Blade by the end of the year.
That would be a stretch, but that'd be 4. I think that's a lot.
Well, then Spider-Man 4 maybe at the end of the year too.
That's even more.
I know.
Which would be great. I mean, selfishly I think that's great, but
we're only getting one this year, and they got to make up for it.
I really hope that they and the guy from Logan did it very well. There's rumors that Blade's daughter is being hunted by Dracula's queen or something, Lilith, the queen of darkness, and trying to make these daywalkers out of her blood, and she eventually becomes the new Blade. I think that story sounds awesome, but you can't make the daughter the focus of the movie. We're here to see Blade. We have to. We're not here to see.
Just hearing you say that makes me cringe.
I'm just telling you, this is what's out there. This is what I'm dealing with mentally on a day-to-day basis.
Just makes me
I'm like,
cringe.
we're gonna go see a Blade movie. We want to see him as the main character. Now that story is fine because Logan did it very well. His daughter supposedly was but it was the movie was about Logan, and that was the journey with his daughter.
So what you're saying is introduce Blade's daughter as a character in the movie, but don't make the movie about Blade's daughter.
Correct.
Right.
And definitely don't kill Blade off and make her the new Blade, the young, Avenger, the next young Avenger. We know how that ends up. It'll be dead on arrival. People will not like that. And the word of mouth will crush that movie.
Yeah, no, I think.
But I trust this writer. I trust him.
I think it's back on track. And
yeah.
Mahershala Ali seems happy, which is also, look, he's been very vocal about his displeasure with previous versions or iterations of the script.
Yeah.
So like, I'm happy that he's happy, and it does seem like this new storyline is feeding into this concept of the Midnight Suns, which we were hoping Marvel was moving in a direction they were moving in, bringing in characters like Moon Knight, Werewolf by Night, Ghost Rider, the Black Knight, whoever you want to bring, Doctor Strange, make them all part of this. I mean, it makes so much sense in the Why are we not hired? Why are we not working for these companies?
I don't know. Anyway,
2 more little small pieces of good news. The Boys, season 4.
Here we go.
Just earlier this week, we got a teaser. Amazon Prime dropped us a teaser poster. The Boys season 4 is coming back June 13th. It will premiere on Amazon Prime with 3 episodes. Which I love the way that Amazon does this.
Yeah.
Wet our whistles, get us really excited, and then make us wait every week for the new one. I love that. I love it. 3 episodes on June 13th, and we'll get another episode every week until the finale that is on July 18th. This is going to be awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, look, we can't wait for season 4. This has been a massive home run for Amazon, been a massive home run across the board. Even their offshoot Gen V was a huge success. And then you and I, like a week later, go to Comic-Con. I mean, this is just, it's all working out well.
July's going to be a busy month.
Yeah, it's going to be
A
great.
lot of big blockbusters coming out. And
yeah. And even better news, I'll say more timely news. Invincible season 2 returns on March 14th, and we can't wait for that too.
Yeah,
the second half of season 2, March 14th. So, look, Marvel, DC, take a hint. Amazon's getting it right. They're killing it. They're doing really well.
Yeah,
figure it out.
Yeah, no question.
Yeah.
Well, what about X-Men 87?
97. Yeah, that comes out March 18th, I believe, something like that. Yeah, it's right around the same time frame.
I'm looking forward to that.
17th. It's literally like the same week, I think.
Cool.
Yeah, that looks really. Yeah, they dropped a trailer for that as well.
Yeah.
X-Men 97. Disney Plus did drop a trailer for X-Men 97. You haven't seen it? Go check it out. Animation style is very similar to the same style they had in the 90s.
Yeah.
But obviously widescreen, updated, a little bit more, but a lot of the voice actors came back to voice their characters again. I can't wait for this. It looks awesome.
That'll be fun. That'll be a fun watch.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Let's get into our topic of the week. And like every week, and we apologize, Studio G, because this is going to be an uncomfortable discussion. But this is brought to us by friend Studio GG Studios, home of the Man, Corn on the Cob.
Corn on the Cob.
So our topic of the week this week is our review of the Madam Web movie. And more pointedly, what the hell is going on, Sony? What the hell is going on?
Yeah.
So in all fairness and full disclosure, I was out of town last weekend for my birthday, and Titanium was like, hey, I'm going to go see the movie. And I'm like, okay, maybe I'll see it when I get back. And all the reviews that had come out for this movie were so bad.
Yeah. Rotten
Tomatoes, terrible scores. Their reviews were just like, this might be one of the worst movies ever. And I'm sorry. I'm not sorry, Sony. I'm not going to pay to go see your piece of S movie. I'm just not going to do it. I refuse to continue to donate my hard-earned dollars to your money grab. And it's not working, obviously, your money grab is not working. But it's just, I'm not going to do it. I've seen and heard enough about this movie that tells me I don't want to see it. I don't need to see it. I'll see it when it's streaming for free. I don't want to go see it. Titanium, the brave man that he is, he's a better, those listeners and watchers of the show know this, Titanium's a much better man than me.
It was a professional courtesy.
He went and saw the movie this past week as a professional courtesy.
I myself in the theater, by the way.
And I would love to hear your thoughts and impressions on Madam Web.
Well, let's talk about the positives first, because there are very few. It is absolutely not the worst movie I've ever seen. So
worst movie in general that you've ever seen.
Worst movie in general that I've ever seen.
Okay, that's good.
And another positive is that it made the Marvels look like Citizen Kane. So that's a positive for you. Number two, I laughed a lot. I found myself laughing out loud by myself in the theater, and I laughed a lot, not with the movie, but at the movie.
Were you able to get a seat?
No, I could move and sit wherever I want. So there were a couple of good things. And I will say this, Sydney Sweeney actually did a pretty good job. And I thought the three young girls in the movie were okay. Their dialogue at times was so cringy. I laughed. Dakota Johnson, I just don't know what she was thinking. Her acting was abysmal. The directing of these people in scenes, awful. Here's another positive. I'm sorry. It's so easy to go negative.
Let it go, Titanium.
So another positive is that the main villain was kind of cool. Like the concept of him was kind of cool, and he looked badass.
Ezekiel Sims, right?
The outfit, his power set, very cool. And I did like that. I like his brutality. The way he was written and his dialogue, awful. Like cringe, laughed at him. Like, really? You're not a threat. You're not what it seemed to be. So the story as itself was awful. It was cringeworthy. It didn't flow. From the writing to the directing to the acting, it really did not work well. So all the reviews that you've seen are kind of true, but I could not, in good conscience, come on our podcast and come here without seeing it myself and making judgment. And by the way, I went in with a completely open mind, like, okay, because not to be old man dirty, but the premieres, when the red carpet premieres of this movie, those women were gorgeous, knocked down, dressed to the nines, gorgeous. They were sexy, beautiful, all of them. And I was kind of like, wow, if we get a small bit of that in the movie, this is going to be fun. This is going to be cool. None of it. They did not use any of their how gorgeous they were, or even the bits and pieces of where you see them in their costumes, like the action scenes in their costumes, was literally 2 minutes in the whole entire movie. It was like a flashback scene. We never got full action.
It's actually a flash forward scene, right?
Awful.
Yeah.
You never got into what was going on with them or using their power sets. It was so discombobulated, and that was frustrating. Madam Web, oh my God, the ending is so bad. No, spoilers, not really, because you're not going to see it, but spoilers here. She becomes blind and paralyzed for some reason.
Just out of the blue.
No,
it's this condition that she was struck with as a child, which is why her mother was doing this research in the Amazon or whatever it was, right?
So bad.
Just out of nowhere, she's blind.
It came with a fight scene where she used her powers beyond the scope and she's learning these powers. She becomes blind and now she's in a wheelchair like that. It was really bad. Like I just, anyway, you did the right thing. Stream it. It's not worth seeing it in the theaters, I think. Is it the worst? Here's another one. It's not the worst movie I've ever seen. I've seen plenty of really stinkers. Here's for you and I, is it the worst comic book movie that I've ever seen? And my answer is no, but it's in the top 3 or 4 for sure. For sure. I think Fantastic Four 2015 with Miles Teller and Michael B. Jordan, that movie was worse than this.
Kate Mara and
yeah.
Yeah.
I think that movie was worse than this.
That was one of the worst. You and I've always talked about it. That's like one of the worst comic book movies
one of the worst
ever seen.
This one's close, but it is not as bad as that.
Did you ever see, so let me ask you a question. Did you ever see, so they've made 2 Punisher movies in the past. One was with Thomas Jane.
Yeah.
And the other one was with Ray Stevenson.
Uh-huh.
Have you seen them both?
I remember vividly the Jane one.
The Thomas Jane movie.
Yeah.
And then there was Ray Stevenson did one as well. Rest in peace, Ray Stevenson. I would rather see both of those movies before I would go see this movie.
Wow. Yeah.
And they were not bad movies. They were just, I would say they're B+ films. You know, they're like, oh, okay, well, you know, they're comic book movies and you kind of like, yeah, you get what you get. But look, Titanium, and I think I'm going to ask you these questions, and I think I know the answer to them. Everybody that I was listening to talk about this movie talked about enough things that made me realize, number one, the reasons why I would go see this movie didn't exist.
Yeah.
The motivation to go see the movie did not exist. So is it a origin story for the Madam Web character? Maybe. Is it an origin story for these 3 different iterations or versions of Spider-Woman that ultimately end up becoming Spider-Woman or some version of Spider-Woman in the future? Not really. Sort of, maybe, but not really. Is there any really good like tie-ins to what Sony's doing with this new Spider-Verse? Nah, not really. They failed.
They
failed.
They absolutely failed at it. Yes. I think they tried to make a jumping
too hard,
and it failed miserably.
Because who's her partner in the ambulance? Just happens to be a Uncle Ben Parker.
Ben. Yeah.
So Uncle Ben is her partner in the ambulance.
Yeah.
And you know, and his sister is having a baby, and you know, and oh, we're gonna have to go see wonder what they named the baby, and like they just tried too hard to make this part of this Spider-Verse. It was just, so let me ask you a couple questions.
So all the reviews the reason why you don't want to go see it and not see it, all the reviewers, the big thing for me was all the reviewers and all the bad things about this movie were consistent throughout. There wasn't something that somebody had an opinion and was just like, Dakota Johnson was the worst actress and this one part really pissed me off. No, it was all consistent. Everybody disliked this movie for the same reasons at different points in time when they saw it.
And I've heard this from multiple places, and you've said this today. I've heard like the fact that Dakota Johnson's a paid actress is shocking.
No
like
question.
I don't think she did any Oscar worthy stuff on the seven, whatever it is, the
Gray.
the gray, 7 shades of gray,
Yeah.
or whatever it is, 12 shades of gray, whatever it is. I don't think she did any like Oscar worthy and I don't know, I didn't watch those movies, but I'm assuming that her acting wasn't fantastic, and you didn't have to be fantastic in that movie or whatever. But they've said like her acting in this movie is abysmal.
Oh.
And it, at some point in time, I don't care who you are, if you're a decent actor or actress, you do as well as you can with the dialogue you've been given by the script writers or the director or whatever.
We saw that in this movie with Sweeney and the other girls.
Sweeney.
Sydney
Right.
Sweeney,
You do the best you can with the material you're given. From what we understand, and we saw this in the Marvels, one of the big criticisms of the Marvels was that the actresses phoned it in. Yeah. Like they just didn't put any emotion behind the lines that they were reading. They didn't give it their all. From what I understand, like she was really bad in this movie from an actress perspective. Like she just delivered the lines she was given poorly, and it just didn't come across very well. So true, right?
Yeah.
I heard that they went back and dubbed a lot of lines in this movie, and they said at times you hear people talking, you see their lips moving, and they're like not even close. It's like watching an old kung fu movie back in the 50s and 60s.
There were two that I can think of that was so obvious. It was, again, I laughed out loud. Like that was a laughing point for me. Like, holy cow, what just happened?
And I think they also mentioned that, like, there was an opportunity. It seemed like this movie was over edited, and I'm saying you can ruin a movie by over editing it, but there's some limits to that. But I do believe this movie was over edited. Was there a good story there and they just didn't figure out how to piece it together? Maybe.
Yeah.
But
maybe. I don't know.
Look, and here's
a lot of the story, and I don't know what you call this, but a lot of the story had a lot of, let's say, dialogue to explain what was happening and what's going on, either from the characters or actually from the characters. Like it was like, and she went to the Amazon and they're showing pictures and stuff, and the voice is explaining what happens to catch you up. And I thought that was a little cringy. So
yeah, look, I think, okay, I'm gonna excuse Sony a little bit, just a little. They have a contractual obligation to utilize the characters they have licensed from Marvel every so often. If they don't, they lose the rights to those characters.
Agree, yes.
And I don't know the exact time period that's in the contract, but they must release a movie with the characters they've licensed from Sony at some period, some interval. And if they don't, they lose the rights.
Not as a partnership with Marvel. No. By themselves.
Correct. So they've licensed Spider-Man and in the neighborhood of like 120 other characters from Marvel with those licensing rights. So it's basically Spider-Man and a lot of ancillary characters like Spider-Woman and all the iterations of Spider-Woman and Venom, obviously, and all of the villains that are tied specifically to Spider-Man.
Kraven the Hunter.
Yes. So Sinister Six, and lots of villains. But they've licensed all these characters and they have to use them. So that's why we saw the Tobey Maguire version of Spider-Man have a movie every 2 to 2.5 years. Then we saw Andrew Garfield get cast, and we had that movie every 2 to 2.5 years. And then once Tom Holland got cast, his utilization by Marvel counted, and then he got 2 movies, and then he got a 3rd movie. And so they have to do this every so often. So the last movie we got from Sony in cooperation with Marvel was Spider-Man No Way Home. That was the last one. And that was December of 2021, I believe. Correct?
I don't know.
I believe it was December 2021.
Okay.
And now we are in February 2024. So I think they were up on the deadline, and I think they were trying to get Kraven out last year, which they've pushed now, what, 3 times, right?
Yes.
And they didn't get that out. And so they were like, we got to get a movie out now. And so they were under pressure to get this movie out to
2021.
Right, December 2021.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been, 3 years. Well, if 2.5, a little over 2 years. So they had to get a movie out. They were contractually obligated. They were going to like bump up against I think it's like 2.5 years. They were bumping up against it. They had to do it. So that's the only excuse I can say why they would do something like this. And by the way, Morbius kind of counted too. So that was, we'll talk about Morbius here in a second. But that's one of the reasons why they did this. I think the challenge that they're having is Sony is trying to build their own Spider-Verse outside of the MCU. Instead of cooperating with Marvel and working with Marvel and integrating these characters with Marvel into the MCU and licensing them back to Marvel or whatever, the same sharing agreement they have with Tom Holland. They're like, no, we're going to build our own Spider-Verse and make our own money because we don't need Marvel. Well, obviously you do, Sony, because I'm going to like lay it out as it is. Everything you have done with these characters since this deal you signed with Marvel to allow them to use Tom Holland has been crap. And I'm going to break it down to say the first Venom movie was okay.
Yeah.
It wasn't good. It wasn't great. It wasn't spectacular. It was okay. And I've said this a million times on this program. Taking Venom and making him a anti-hero, the Venom lethal protector, and we're just going to focus on Eddie Brock and make him a good guy. And even though he's got this symbiote and wants to kill and eat everything, he's going to be a good dude. Bad idea. Bad idea. Redemption arc, maybe down the road. But to start that way, never agreed with it.
Yep.
And the first movie was, and I
Black Adam did the same thing.
I love Tom Hardy. I love Tom Hardy. Love him. He's been he's an incredible actor. Played some incredible characters. Bane, incredible, right? His role in
Peaky Blinders.
What was his in the DiCaprio movie about the grizzly bear that attacks him and everything else? Remember, he played the other guy.
Yeah. The Revenant.
The Reverend.
The Reverend.
Amazing. He's an amazing actor.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give him credit there. But okay, of all the things you've had come out, Venom, first one, okay movie.
Yeah.
Again, don't agree with the way you use the character. Don't agree with the plot of the story. Don't agree with any of that, but it was okay. Venom, Let There Be Carnage. Bad movie. I'm sorry. It was a bad movie.
Yeah.
Bad. And the way that you even got there with Carnage is just bad.
Yeah.
Morbius. Okay movie. I didn't think the movie was that bad. I thought that movie was okay. Post-credit scene made the movie bad. Made it cringeworthy, horrible.
Yeah, no question.
But I thought the movie was okay.
It was okay.
But post-credit scene, the way you tried to tie everything into what was going on with Spider-Man No Way Home and all that, it was just horrible. Bringing the Vulture in, it was just terrible.
Yeah.
Right? This movie, horrible. One of the worst ever. My hopes and we saw the Kraven the Hunter trailer and we cringed. We were like, no, don't do this with that character.
Anti-hero.
Don't do this. Make him a good dude. Don't. They're going to do it.
Yeah.
So my hopes for Kraven are at an all-time low. My hopes for Venom 3, which is coming out later this year, all-time low.
Think about Sony sitting there after this bomb and they're looking down the barrel of Kraven launching in a couple of months. Think about the panic on those investors' faces if this doesn't land. It's got to land on its own 2 feet. And I can tell you this, no one's going to believe it. This movie, if it's good, the only way it'll be successful is word of mouth. It won't take off for a month after it's been released till word of mouth, if it's good, but I have low expectations.
Look, fact of the matter is they're trying to make money off of us based on this licensing agreement they have with Spider-Man and all these characters. Now, the one place I will give them massive kudos and massive credit what they've done on the animated side with Into the Spider-Verse and Across the Spider-Verse, home runs. Both of them been home runs, and I can't wait for the sequel to come out. They've done really well, and I'll tell you what, that's the way to do it. That's the creative way to set up your own universe.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the creative way to do it. But what they've done in live action has been horrific.
Yeah.
And they set the stage for kind of a live action Spider-Verse with the second Andrew Garfield movie, Amazing Spider-Man #2. They did a really good job there at the end. If you remember, you had the guy walking in the basement of Oscorp, and they had like the Rhino suit, and then they had the Doc Ock suit, and they had the Vulture wings and everything. They were trying to set up the Sinister Six, and it looked like that's the direction they were moving, and we were all excited about it.
Yeah.
Then they punt on Andrew Garfield, sign Tom Holland, license him to Marvel, and then the story changes. Right?
Yeah.
Look, the three Spider-Man movies they've done with Tom Holland have been great.
Yeah.
Guess who did them? Marvel did them. Marvel wrote them. Marvel directed them. Marvel did everything. You just got the box office, returns from them. You didn't do anything. You didn't write the scripts. You didn't produce them. You didn't do anything. Marvel did it all. You just benefited from them.
Yeah.
So what you're doing with the Spider-Verse, you're ruining it. You're ruining it. You're ruining it. Leave Spider-Man alone. Leave the Spider-Verse alone. You've absolutely ruined it. And what you're doing the rest of this year is going to fail. It's going to suck. I have zero faith in it. You're ruining one of the best characters ever. Look, give him back to Marvel if you're going to do this, because you're killing it.
Yeah. Agree.
Look, if you would have taken this movie, look, you had one of the hottest actresses in Hollywood in multiple ways. Hottest actress in Hollywood as far as popularity, and Smoke Show, hottest actress in Hollywood.
No question.
And you had her in glasses and a buttoned up top the entire time.
Awful.
Didn't show any, didn't use any of her beauty, any of her charisma, her charm, nothing.
Sexiness, anything. They would have been better off to having
one girl,
and just focus
just
on
Sydney Sweeney. Who knows? Okay,
Spider-Woman. Yeah.
Listeners and viewers out there, how many versions of Spider-Woman are you aware of? Before you even saw this movie, if you saw this movie, how many versions of Spider-Woman are you aware of? Do you know that there's like 5 or 6 of them out there? And are you familiar with them?
Well,
probably not.
From Into the Spider-Verse, I think they kind of highlighted on a few.
Spider-Gwen, which is not really a Spider-Woman.
And
the original version of Spider-Woman,
the
who's
motorcycle.
British, is Jessica Drew. That's the original version of Spider-Man, and they've had multiple versions after that. But why focus so much time and attention on these versions of Spider-Woman when, again, not very popular characters?
No.
I mean, I could look it up, find out how many copies of this comic book sold. It wasn't a lot.
No.
But that's what they're trying to focus on. But even if you picked one, okay, pick one, focus on it, and then show her journey from being who she is as a teenager and moving into the Spider-Woman character, and have Madam Web be there to kind of, mentor her and bring her along and all that. Fine. But they completely try to,
make up their own
3 Spider-Women in here.
Yeah. Yeah.
And are you looking forward to seeing these 3 editions of Spider-Woman in future Sony movies?
No, I won't go see any of it.
No, you're not like,
maybe Sydney Sweeney.
and you mean the 2 minutes you got to see of them in costume didn't excite you?
That was so disappointing.
And they used it all over the trailer.
All over
the trailer.
It was everything you see in the trailer, except for 1 or 2 things, is in the movie. Like in the trailer. Like you see majority
Sony,
of it.
You done messed up, Sony.
Yeah.
You done messed up, AA Ron.
I will tell you this. I will definitely go to Kraven with an open mind, because I really like that.
I like
that
Aaron Taylor Johnson.
I think he's
I
awesome.
like him.
Yeah.
But
I'm going to go in there with an open mind, but I'm telling you.
There's precedent here, Titanium. Black Adam.
Yep.
You messed up.
Yeah, big time.
Venom.
Huge missed opportunity.
You messed up.
Huge missed
Kraven.
opportunity.
Oh, Morbius. You messed up.
Yeah.
Kraven. You messed up. You're trying to make these villains and these, look, it's okay to have characters that are a little disturbed and they walk the line between good and bad. Punisher's a great example of that.
Yeah.
Look at what Marvel's done with the Punisher character.
And if you're
great example of that.
If you're trying to follow the blueprint of Loki, guys, he was bad for several movies. Like he was mischievous and a bad guy for several. That character arc was done over a long period of time, but we were introduced to him as a bad guy.
He invaded New York with an alien army.
Yeah, and killed a lot of
people.
Tore a guy's eye out right on. I mean, come on.
Right.
That's the way you do it, though. That's the way you do it.
Again, redemption arc, different story.
Down the road.
Yeah. Right. Well, like I said, look at what Marvel's done with the Punisher character. Would anybody say that the Punisher's a villain? No. Would I say he's a good guy? No.
No.
Would I say he's got good intentions but does things the wrong way? Yeah. And that's what I want in my anti-heroes.
Yeah.
I don't want you to take villains. Look, Kraven the Hunter is a bad dude. I don't want you to take a bad dude and make him into a good dude and then face him against Spider-Man someday.
Yeah.
Because he's got good morals, but he's a bad guy. You know, it's like, come on. What are you doing?
Yeah.
What are you doing, Sony? You're screwing it up. You've done screwed up the Spider-Man universe. Stop it. Like, just stop.
Yeah.
Give the characters back to Marvel. Now, here's the other thing that's pissing me off. Seems like they now got their hands in what Marvel's doing with Spider-Man 4. They want to have a say in what Spider-Man 4 is and isn't. Kevin Feige wants Spider-Man 4 to be a street-level story. Nobody knows that Tom Holland's version of Peter Parker is Spider-Man anymore. That was taken care of in Spider-Man No Way Home.
Correct.
He's anonymous again.
Yep.
Which is the way it should have been all along, by the way.
Yeah.
He's anonymous again. So they're going to take this kid who's in college and you're going to make him a street-level hero, and you're going to maybe bring Daredevil in, and Kingpin's going to be part of it. And I'll give you a better idea. Introduce Miles Morales. Introduce the Black Cat. Introduce all like little other characters. Great.
Yep.
Have a street level movie.
I do not want Sony doing a live action Miles Morales. They'll
butcher it.
Screw the
it up.
pooch.
Let Marvel do it.
Yeah,
Right. I agree
Marvel
with you. But that would be a Marvel movie. That's why I say do it in that movie.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. If Marvel has their hand in Spider-Man 4,
right,
bring him in sideways. That's a great opportunity because they'll bring him in the right way.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. Now, Sony theoretically is now putting pressure on Kevin Feige and Marvel to make Spider-Man 4 bigger than it is. They want to bring Tom Holland and Andrew Garfield back. They want to make it this multiverse movie again. They want to make it this big thing.
It's been done.
Why do you think they want to do it? Because the last one did so well. Why don't we do it again?
It's lazy. Lazy.
It is just Sony. Stop. You screwed up. This movie, bad. You haven't had a good movie yet. You really haven't. You haven't had a good movie yet by yourself. You have not. And if you think you have, you're wrong. You have not. It's not Morbin time. It's not time for all this stuff. Stop screwing around with these characters. Kraven's going to bomb. I'm going to tell you right now it's going to bomb. And so is Venom 3. And what are you going to do then?
I still have hopes for Kraven, Sony, so I'll be there.
I'll watch it,
but
I'm just telling you, it's going to bomb.
Yeah.
Look, I rant on Marvel, rant on Sony. You're screwing up our characters. You're just messing with them.
Yeah.
And look, like we said, if you need inspiration, if you need guidance on what you should be doing with these characters,
go to the comics.
Go read the decades of material that you have at your fingertips. I know you got copies.
Yeah.
Go read them.
Yeah.
Pull some stories out of there. Grab some villains. Grab some other characters that you think might be interesting. Put them on the screen and base something on that. If you took a story straight from the comic books and made a movie adaptation of it, people would like it because guess what? People bought the comic books.
Yep.
So you'll be fine. But when you keep creating these Madam Web stories that with characters that nobody cares about, nobody knows, and it just too much.
Yeah, it was too much. All right, Professor, I'm not going to say anything else about Madam Web. I think enough has been said out there. And I tell you what, the Hollywood shills, it's so cute to see them come on.
God,
the Hollywood shills come in and do their reviews and saying, it's not as bad as people are saying it is. And it takes
there was a good movie somewhere. I think they just messed it up on the cutting floor.
And also, this is the line that kills me. This is their go-to. It takes a lot of hard work for a lot of people that put their blood, sweat, and tears into this, making a movie. It's not as easy as you think. So even though it didn't work, the movie was still made by people that cared about making a really good movie. And for those people, I respect them and blah, 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 blah. Listen, those people got paid for making a shitty product. That's what you should be more concerned about, that they got paid for making a really shitty product. So I don't know. If you got into your car and it broke down the day you drove it off the lot, would you be pissed? Or would you be like, well, it takes a lot of good people to put the car together? No, they got paid for putting a shitty product together. So Hollywood shills, sorry, we're not on board. Again, we can be if the price is right. But Madam Web, bottom 3 of the worst comic book movies I've ever seen. Bottom 3.
We might have to go over that list someday.
Oh.
Might
Well,
do that.
Professor, let's ring the bell.
All right. Well, that's it for us this week. We're back next week for more Super Talk. To get in touch with us on social media, hit us up via email, supertalkpodcast@outlook.com, or at supertalkpod on Twitter. Until then, stay super, everyone.
Corner on the top, the man.